Doug Gottlieb Show, Fox Sports Radio. Ric Bucher joins us. I want to get to some of the games, but the Mark Jackson thing is interesting. So when he doesn't get the Kings job, does that make him more or less likely to get the Lakers job?
I don't know that it's going to have an effect, to be honest with you, because the Lakers, I don't see the Lakers as making their decision. To say that it would have a negative effect would be to suggest, well, if the Sacramento Kings don't want him, then why would we want them? I don't know that that's how the decision is going to be made. For all that the Lakers are operating with the idea that they are independent of LeBron James will still have a big say in who gets chosen to be the next head coach, and certainly he's on board with Mark being the next head coach of the Lakers. So to me, it's simply, and I like Mike Brown, but if you're looking for someone who's going to have a galvanizing effect and is going to change your culture and make it a hard-working one, I would, and you gave me my choice, I would take Mark Jackson over Mike Brown. And it's a different dynamic in terms of different challenge with the Lakers. Yes, their culture needs to change, but you also need someone who can handle the egos and the personalities that you have on that team. And I would say of anybody that I can think of that's out there and available, again, Mark Jackson, I believe, has the best shot at doing that. I don't know whether he will be successful. I don't know that anybody could be successful. But I believe that he's got as good a chance of as any. And I'm not saying that the Lakers are going to hire Mark Jackson or that I expect them to hire Mark Jackson.
I understand what you're saying. It's like, look, and it's like a little bit of a Phil Jackson sort of thing. Like, the magic to Phil Jackson is not necessarily the coaching. It's the management of egos, right? And to anybody who said, like, well, he's already had star players, like, yes, other people had Kobe and Shaq and couldn't win. Del Harris, a very good coach, a good man.
Yep.
Couldn't do it. Okay?
Yep.
Doug Collins, great coach, good dude, hard-driving dude, couldn't do it. Like, Phil's just a master of, and Mark Jackson, because of the cachet of having coached the Warriors, having played a long time, doing the broadcast. Yep. Here's the thing that I would think hurts him is the clutch thing. I think just the idea of, like, wait a second, hold on. You got LeBron, you got AD, and now our coach is going to be a clutch guy? Like, I don't see it.
I certainly get that, but it's where the Lakers find themselves. It's all well and good to say, I don't know that we want to be in bed with clutch, but you already are. Like, I don't know that you can half step at this point. I mean, they need to be massaged to the point where they accept it, but the reality is, look, you sold your soul to clutch. This idea that, like, well, now we're gonna pull back. That's not where you are. You're all in with LeBron or you're not, and there may be a price to pay for that, but that's where you are. I don't see them having any other alternative or having that. If that's going to stand in the way, like, we got to show some autonomy or independence from clutch in making our coaching decision. I don't know that that's necessarily smart at this stage of their evolution.
I don't really understand how anyone could think Jordan Poole was purposely trying to hurt Ja Morant.
Yeah.
But Taylor Jenkins seems to be fueling that.
Well, I'm glad you said that the way you did. He's fueling it, just as Steve Kerr fueled it with Dylan Brooks. But the Dylan
Brooks thing. Hold on, like, and sorry to interrupt, Buke. Okay, so for people who don't know, Buke played soccer at Dartmouth. Okay.
Yep.
So and I don't know what the code is in soccer in terms of injuries, but you've also played enough basketball, and I obviously played a lot of basketball.
Yep.
When it's not necessarily a breakaway layup. Guy's up in the air. You know what you don't do? You don't shove him. You go for block. You don't shove him because he doesn't know where he's going to come down. And bracing yourself for a fall is exactly what led to the led to the injury. That's why it's a very, very dangerous play. At best, it's dangerous. I thought so as well. That one, I support Steve Kerr, and he's right. I can't, even if Dylan Brooks is not dirty, it's dangerous. I can't see any sort of way in which you could make that correlation with Jordan Poole.
Well, but here's the problem. Steve Kerr said the same thing about the Marcus Smart play. It's dirty. It was unfair. And I feel as if we're in a place now where getting the league to jump in and suspend somebody or to get a flagrant, like whatever it is, it's become we're in a court of law now, and we're trying to convince the league that something just has happened, and that's the back and forth now. Now you can make a case that Steve Kerr has, or you could say that Steve Kerr had a much stronger case to make with Dylan Brooks, but the fact of the matter is, and I'll go back to this, like Gary Payton not just dunking, but clowning on guys and doing it in a playoff series, you're asking for someone to put a beat on you. That's just the reality of playoff basketball, even in this day and age. And there's no question, Dylan Brooks said, you are not dunking and clowning on us again. Whatever happens, I may take you out of the air. I may push you. That ain't happening on my watch. And a more experienced player or a player that played 5-10 years ago, and you know this from when you played, you knew that, like, you had to do certain things to protect yourself. We're in this new day and age where no, I get to do whatever I want. You can't touch me. Like, when did that become professional sports? Or no one's ever supposed to get injured. Because I would dare say, as aggressive as the play was by Dylan Brooks, if Gary Payton II does not fracture his elbow, does not have an injury as a result, I don't believe there's he might have got kicked out of the game, but there wouldn't have been a second game of suspension. And I'll go back to what Gary Payton Sr. said, which is, if anybody dunked and clowned on me the way my son did, I'd have something for them. That's the basketball that I'm used to. And the problem that we've reached now is it's become a matter of we're just trying to make everything look like egregious. We're trying to make everything look violent, and we're going to look at it in replay. So, we're going to watch it in replay, and we're going to appeal to the league, and we're going to make everybody seem dirt. Like, look, guys are going to get hurt when you play. That's just the reality. There's no way of avoiding that. It doesn't mean that somebody did something wrong. I don't think Jordan Poole intended to hurt Ja Morant. I don't think Dylan Brooks intended to hurt Gary Payton. I believe that in both cases it was, I'm going to stop this guy. And in the case of Jordan Poole, I can't get to the ball, so I'm going to push his hip, I'm going to grab his knee, and I'm going to try to keep him off balance so that Andrew Wiggins can get the ball instead of him. It's part of basketball. It's part of sports. And we've gotten to a point now where if anything happens, we now have to go to replay. We now have to suspend somebody. Somebody has to pay a price. And I'm over it.
I agree with you, but you're dead wrong on Dylan Brooks. You're just wrong. Okay?
How so?
I don't think it was dirty. I think, and I'm almost positive on this one, that, look, it's that Gary Payton on the scouting report is no dunks, right? No dunks.
Right.
But everyone knows you can't push a dude when he goes up for a dunk. And that's why. Because the play that is likely to lead to an injury. There is no likely to lead to an injury where you're grabbing at the ball and grabbing a guy's leg. It's like literally never happened before, ever in humanity. That's where I will tell you I believe you're wrong. Ric Bucher joining us. Foxwell, go ahead.
I'll just say I've never seen a play like that with Jordan Poole.
Neither have I. So it's not. It's again. That's the difference in the code and the likelihood of injury. Let's get to you mentioned the things that have changed and the replays. I thought Phoenix Dallas was an abject disaster for the league. Yep. I love the sport. I love Chris Paul. I love Luka. Yep. That was awful. Between the flopping, the calls, the constant replays, the complaining, it was awful. It was almost like you want to go like, you know what? Let's pretend this game didn't happen. Let's redo it. And you've got to figure it out. We're not going to call any fouls if everybody's just flopping every time.
Right. Well, but again, Doug, that is a byproduct. This is all we're talking about the same thing.
Right.
We're talking about everybody is aggrandizing everything that happens. Steve Kerr and Taylor Jenkins talking about dirty plays and all of that is to get guys suspended. We got guys flopping on the floor in order to draw fouls and get guys fouled out. And the league has bought into it. Like, everybody wants to blame the referees. The referees are getting their marching orders from the league. They're reviewing every single thing because that's how the league wants it done. Nobody's working independently there when it comes to that. And so we've taken out there, and you mentioned the code. There is no code anymore. It's the same as in baseball. Like, everybody talks about the unwritten rules of baseball. When you had veteran players handing down, this is what's acceptable and this is what's not acceptable. This is a hard foul versus this is a dangerous play. And players knew that all of that was going to be marshaled and handled by the players on the court. You knew where the lines were drawn. We don't have that anymore. Nobody knows what the code is. So the code is, we're going to take it to the league office with their 800 lawyers, and they're going to determine what's best for the league. And that's how we got the tax code, which is also a code but not a code. If you want to have a code for the NBA that's 800 pages long, that's where we are.
Okay, let me ask you about Chris Paul's family.
Yeah.
I mean, he acted like they were in danger, but it seemed like a kid. Do we have any idea what really happened?
We don't, and that's why I'm reserving judgment before getting all hot and bothered. Because it looked to me like a 14, 15-year-old kid who was like scared to death. When it says he put hands on somebody, like, I don't even know what that means, and I don't know what the interaction was between the kid and the Chris Paul family. I don't know enough to say either way exactly what happened. I will say this, that what I have seen and what over the last couple of years is that there used to be, and I've been close enough over the 20 plus years that I've covered the league. Look, nothing is being said or done today that wasn't said 20 or 25 years ago. The difference is I can't ever remember players, particularly star players, the biggest names in the league, reacting and engaging. I can't recall Larry Bird ever asking, or Magic Johnson asking, for a fan to be kicked out of the arena. I remember Michael Jordan or Kobe or anyone exchanging, having a back and forth with fans in the stands, at least not in an incredibly derogatory way. I can't help but I don't see role players who, I guarantee you, Patrick Beverley and Grayson Allen and you name it, Dylan Brooks, they're going to have some awful things said to them by fans. Are they engaging? Are they going back and forth? I can't help but feel like we have the superstars in the league now have reached a level of, whether it's financial independence or it's this sort of secular separation from fans, that they don't feel like, you know what, I don't have to respect the fans. If they're going to say something, I am going to go back at them and fight fire with fire. And I'm not saying that, I'm not defending fans and with some of the things that they say. I'm just saying that the way of engagement has changed.
I agree, and like all of this is bad for the product.
I agree.
Right? Like it's bad.
Yep.
Like this is an Adam Silver problem.
I agree.
It's a problem. You can't have Kevin Durant telling the fan to STFU, even if the fan deserves it. There's like 50 others in earshot, You don't do that. Like, those are your paying customers.
Well, you know what it is? It's an extension of. You get the same thing happening on social media.
I agree. I agree. But here's the thing.
Taking it into person.
Completely agree. You're dead on accurate. And here's the thing. This is like this is why I hate the e-news and all that stuff, because they'll put up some tweet from some random like it matters. And Kevin Durant this is what he does on Twitter, where he treats people whose opinion don't matter like they matter and has to clap back at them. Like, you're Kevin Durant. You don't need to engage in all that. And now we got Chris Paul acting like you got some thug fan when there's a little kid with an earring going like, dude, what?
Not having seen what actually happened.
And look, Luka did it too in Game 2. Okay, he's walking off the court. He played terribly defensively. Somebody says something to him. He snaps his head back and comes like, what are you doing? Just walk off the court.
So we have one other incident by a guy I would consider a role player, Miles Bridges, right? He's going off, and a guy says something to him, and he whips the mouth guard, and he accidentally hits a young girl. But what was the reaction from Miles Bridges? He could not have been more apologetic. He could not have been more remorseful about, you know what, I let my anger or my emotions get to me. We're not hearing any of that from the star players, and I believe that we have to get back to that. These guys have to be bigger than that, because the fans aren't going to change. There's no way to legislate or fans are going to say stuff. I don't know when it turned where it became acceptable or understandable that it wasn't part of the job to ignore the peanut gallery. But that has always been part of the job, and unless we get back to where it is part of the job, then I only believe that we're going to have more of this, because the family or whoever's in the stands is only going to be seen as an extension of the player.
This is from Shams, who just put this out on Twitter. This is the statement from the Dallas Mavericks on the incident involving Chris Paul's family and fans. 2 fans who gave unwanted hugs to Paul's family will be banned from American Airlines Center until 2023. 2 unruly fans gave unwanted hugs and have conversations with members of the Paul family on the public concourse of American Airlines Center. AAC security responded immediately.
Doing?
Huh?
What are we doing?
I don't know. We've lost our mind. We've lost our mind.
I will.
We have lost our collect. This is the issue. And then the other issue is, you and me were like the only ones like, hey, can we just wait? I did the Dan Patrick Show this morning, and Ryan Holland's like, fans are like, you had no idea what happened. All you see is Chris Paul laying into some kid like, I'll see you after the game. Like, what? Because Chris Paul clearly didn't see what happened if it happened on the concourse.
Right.
What are we doing? These are. I understand that fans are unruly. Okay, I understand there are people that get in fights, they yell terrible stuff. Okay, but for the most part, most fans are fans, right? They're there to see great players play.
Well, here's the other part. Here's the other part, Doug. Your family members that come to watch you play, they're fans too.
Yes.
Like, if you don't want to engage with the public, don't go into the public, or get a suite, get box seats. Don't sit with the fans. It's this idea that you're going to get special treatment. Like, everybody should be treated the same. We should treat each other with decorum. I'm not saying that it's okay to put hands on anybody or get into arguments or whatever, but that's what happens with fans. That's what happens with people in the stands. And again, I don't know enough to say what was said or how it was said or whatever, but this idea that immediately we're going to decide who was in the wrong because someone said something.
That's a hard one.
Look,
it's. I mean, I don't get it. We got to run, Butte. Great stuff, dude.
You got it. See ya.
I'll have more on these dreaded unwanted hugs.